and thank you so much for joining me today for our live broadcast on the 7 things you didn't know about overnight rail journeys here with Amtrak Vacations. I'd like to introduce myself to start off here. I will be your host this morning. My name is Colleen McCarthy, and I've had the very good fortune to be with Amtrak Vacations for almost 8 years now. It's a little crazy how time flies. Um, so I have had the tremendous opportunity to travel on many of the different train routes that we are going to look at today, and to visit many of the incredible destinations that you're going to see. So please do feel free to ask questions. Please ask any questions you can think of all throughout today's broadcast. You should see the questions box on the right-hand side of your screen. You can go ahead and type away those questions at any point throughout today's broadcast, and then I will come to your questions at the end of the presentation. Now, I can tell you from experience, we do usually get quite a few questions. So if I do not have time to answer your question live on the presentation, do not worry. I will make sure that somebody from the team reaches out to email you the information that you need. So we will make sure to answer each and every one of your questions. So again, please do feel free to type those away all throughout the presentation. I can see we've already got a few people entering them. Good morning, everyone. In addition, we do have some great handouts available for you today. So we've got some great handouts on the onboard accommodations, as well as our fantastic Amtrak Vacations map. So our great downloadable map that you'll see in just a minute here in the presentation is available for you to download. So please, again, do feel free to do that at any point throughout today's broadcast. Now, what we will cover in today's presentation. So, of course, our main focus today is the travel overnight on board Amtrak, what that journey is like, what the different sleeping accommodations look like, and what your onboard experience will be. We're also going to talk a little bit about how Amtrak is adapting to provide a safe environment in our current climate. We'll look at some fantastic limited time offers that we have right now, including an exclusive offer just for you folks to thank you for joining me today. That will come up at the end of the presentation, so do make sure you stay tuned until the end of the broadcast so that you can get that promo code for your extra savings offer. We'll also talk a little bit about the different train routes that you can travel on. So first we're going to look at the amazing onboard experience, and then we're going to look at some of the incredible routes that go all across the country here with Amtrak. And we'll talk a little bit about what Amtrak Vacations can do for you as far as setting up not only your train travel, but also your accommodations, some amazing sightseeing, and things like that. Now, Amtrak Vacations is part of the Yankee Leisure Group family of brands, so we've got a couple fantastic sister companies. If you are ever considering rail travel in Europe or beyond, Rail Bookers is for you. But of course, today's presentation is about Amtrak Vacations. And I do always like to start these presentations by showing you the Amtrak system map. I just think it's super inspiring. It shows you just how many places Amtrak visits all the way across the USA and up into Canada. So as you can probably see on the map there, every one of those little tiny white dots represents a different Amtrak station. And Amtrak does have over 500 stations across the US and up into Canada. So wherever you might be located, we can get you started from a station right in your hometown, connect you through to one of the beautiful Amtrak cross-country routes, take you out to see some spectacular national parks or some vibrant cities or wherever you might like to go. Amtrak does cover 46 out of the 48 continuous United States, so pretty much anywhere you want to go, we can get you there by train. Now, I know that as you folks start to think about your potential trips coming up here in the future, of course, your number one concern will be for your health and safety for yourself and your family. So I do just want to highlight a little bit about what Amtrak is doing to maintain a safe environment before we get into the presentation itself. So right now with Amtrak, they do require facial coverings in the stations and on board the trains and throughway buses. So you will need to have a face mask or face covering while you are in the station and on board the train in the public areas of the train. One of the great things, though, is if you did choose to upgrade to one of the private rooms, so the roomette or the bedroom or the accessible room or the family room, when you are inside your private cabin, you do not need to wear that facial covering. Of course, if you were going to take a stroll down to the dining car, you'd want to put it on, but in the comfort of your own room, you don't need to worry about it. Of course, Amtrak is enhancing cleaning protocols as well. So they are the equipment itself, the trains, everything on board the train, as well as in the stations, is cleaned and sanitized very frequently. Amtrak is cashless and contactless at this time. So what that means is, for example, you'll hold up your ticket on your smartphone or your tablet or your piece of paper if you've printed it out, and the Amtrak employee will come and scan it with his or her wand, but you'll never have to pass anything back and forth. So it's contactless ticketing. Um, as well, in the stations, they are putting up social distancing posters and floor stickers. So, in particular, in the high traffic areas of the station, like where people wait to board the train, they are putting down those floor stickers to show you how to stand safely apart from each other. And the trains are running at about 50% capacity. That's a deliberate choice on Amtrak's part to reduce the capacity of those trains to ensure distance between guests. So, for example, if you are going to be riding in the coach seats, how it will work is your party will be seated together when you board, but then they'll make sure to leave space between your party and the next party to board. Now, one of the things before we look at what the actual overnight experience looks like on board Amtrak, one of the things that folks always ask is how to prepare for their rail vacation, how to pack for the train, essentially. So, one of the things that you may not know about Amtrak is that they have a very generous baggage allowance. So, you can bring on 2 free carry on bags, plus, you can check 2 bags as well, and all the stations where checked baggage is available, which is most of them here across the US. Now, the checked baggage does work similar to an airline. So if you check your bag in your original station, let's say, and maybe it's New York City, you will not see that bag again until you reach your destination. So maybe that's going to be the Grand Canyon. So you want to make sure to pack everything that you need on board the train in those carry-on bags that you'll carry on. So, for example, some of the things folks do often forget: your toothbrush, your pajamas, a change of clothes for tomorrow, of course, because we're talking about the overnight experience, right? Your charger for your phone, your tablet, your laptop if you're going to bring one, anything you want for entertainment, like a deck of cards, a great book to read. Any medication certainly that you need, you want to make sure that you have it there with you in your carry-on bag. And again, you can have 2 free carry-on bags per person in addition to 2 checked bags. Now, if you are going to be checking a bag, we do recommend that you get to the station about an hour before the train is scheduled to depart, because you want to make sure to get the lay of the land, find that baggage check-in desk, and get all of your luggage checked in before the train leaves. Now, once you've boarded the train, you have several different types of accommodations to choose from. So we will look first at the coach accommodations. Now, I don't actually love the word coach because I always think that it puts folks in mind of an airplane, and that is really not the experience that you get on board Amtrak. As you can see in the photo here, the coach accommodations are you have tons of legroom, so there's loads of room in between the chairs. It's only 2 chairs and then an aisle and then 2 more chairs, so you'll never have the dreaded middle seat situation on board Amtrak. You've always got that window seat or an aisle. Now, with the coach seats, the seats do recline back quite a bit, as you can see in the photo there. It's about a 45-degree angle, so quite a bit further than you would on an airplane. You've also got outlets at each seat, as well as storage for your luggage right overhead there. As you can see, that storage is quite ample size above your head. It's not, again, this tiny little box you have to jam your suitcase into like you have on an airplane. But if you didn't feel comfortable putting your bag over your head, or if you do have a larger bag, at the front of each coach car, there is a baggage storage area as well. So you can always store the bag at the front of the train, and then just put any sort of personal items like a backpack, a purse, a laptop, whatever you like, over your head or underneath the seat in front of you as well. Now, with the coach seating, you do have access to the dining car and the sightseeing car. But just so you know, all of your meals will be paid out of pocket. So the meals are not included with the coach seats, but you can certainly head down to the dining car and purchase a meal there if you like. You can also bring your own food and drink on board the train. So you can bring your own snacks, maybe have a little train picnic if you like, in the coach seats. And one of the great features of those coach seats is the big, beautiful picture windows. So you can see them. I think this is a great photo to illustrate no matter where you sit on board the train, you're going to have incredible views of the beautiful scenery that you go past as you travel across country. Now, the coach seating is very comfortable and I do recommend it. But if you are thinking about traveling overnight on board the train, of course, the topic of our presentation tonight is overnight travel on board the trains. I do always suggest that you at least look into getting a roomette or bedroom or one of the sleeping accommodations on board the train. One of the fantastic perks of having one of those sleeping accommodations is that the sleeper car passengers do get to board the train separately. So essentially, if you do have a roomette, a bedroom, or one of the other types of cabins, you have priority boarding on board Amtrak, which is quite fantastic. That way you get to avoid the crowds. You can kick back and relax in the station lounge if you're in one of the larger stations that has a station lounge. So every sleeper car passenger also has access to the exclusive lounges in the stations where they're available, like Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles. You can kick back and relax in your exclusive first class lounge, wait until it's time to board the train. They'll make that announcement overhead to tell you to head down to the tracks just for the sleeper car passengers so you can take a leisurely stroll down to the train and get on board and beat the crowds that way. Now, the first type of accommodation we are going to look at here is the roomette. Now, the roomette on board the train is designed for one or two people. It's the slightly smaller of the two main cabin types. The roomette has two seats during the day which face each other. You've got the big, beautiful picture windows that you can see there. A little fold-out tray for your meals or to set up your laptop and watch a movie. You've got great outlets and air conditioning controls as well, so you can plug in that laptop if you did want to download a few movies ahead of time and watch them along the way. You can also charge your phone or other devices right there inside your roomette. And then in the evening, your chairs are going to fold down into the bottom bunk, and the top bunk is going to fold out from the wall. So it is bunk bed style sleeping accommodations, as you can kind of see in that little diagram that's in the right or left-hand side of the photo there, at least on my screen. It will fold down into bunk beds at night. And don't worry, I do have a photo of that for you in just a minute. And now with the roomettes, all of the facilities are just down the hall. So the restrooms and shower facilities are down the hall with the roomettes, but you are not sharing those facilities with the entire train. You're not even sharing them with everybody that has a roomette. You are only sharing the facilities with the other folks that have a roomette in your particular train car. And what's great about the sleeper cars in general as well is that no matter what type of sleeper car you have, you will be assisted by the sleeper car attendant. The sleeper car attendants, folks, are fantastic. They are some of my favorite people that I've met on all of my trips across country here. They're super friendly. They're incredibly knowledgeable. If you're going by a river or a mountain, you can point out the window and ask your attendant what you're passing by, and they'll pretty much always know and be able to tell you where you are on board your journey, how much time until the next stop. And those sleeper car passenger attendants are the folks that will take care of the facilities on board the train as well. So they take great pride in keeping them clean and tidy and nice for you. So I've really never had any trouble using the facilities when I've stayed in a roomette. Typically, the roomettes are the way that I tend to travel when I do take Amtrak. I just think they're nice and cozy and comfy there. Now, with the roomettes, again, you do have this privacy door, as you can see in this photo here. So you'll see that the two chairs are facing each other during the day. Now, these folks are leaning quite close together for the photo op here. Um, you never have to really worry about your knees knocking each other. I've had that question as well. There's plenty of legroom for both people there. And of course, that privacy door will slide across whenever you'd like to close it, and it does lock from the inside, so you can lock it up for privacy and security. You also have some really heavy blackout curtains. You can see them just behind the couple there, as well as on this window that faces the hallway. There's also blackout curtains there, so you can draw them across for privacy when sleeping. Also, so that you don't get woken up by the sunrise in the morning if you don't want to be awake for the sunrise. You can draw those blackout curtains across, and they velcro to the walls, so it does create quite a nice, cozy, dark atmosphere there for sleeping. And just another great shot of the interior of the roomette, just to give you another sense of space and how it's configured. Now, with the roomettes, of course, there's not a lot of space for luggage, so I do recommend that if you are bringing a larger carry-on bag, you leave it in the luggage rack. So there is a luggage rack in each sleeping car. So you can leave your bigger suitcase in the luggage rack and then just bring a smaller overnight bag up to the roomette itself. So as you can see in this photo, there is storage underneath the seats for your, little overnight bag. Um, there's also a little bit of storage on the side, which you can't quite see because the wall's in the way. But there is some storage on the side as well. So, but you would just want to bring a smaller bag and, just have the essentials, your toothbrush, your PJs, your tablet or your book, whatever you might need on board. And then you can access the luggage rack for the carry-on bags anytime. So you can head down and access your carry-on bag on the luggage rack if you did forget and leave something in there that you need. And here's just a great shot of the roomettes made up at night. So you can really see how they are set up as bunk beds. So the bottom bunk has quite a bit of room. I can actually sit up straight in the bottom bunk and not bang my head. I'll admit I'm a little on the shorter side. I'm not sure if that gentleman in the photo could quite sit up all the way, but it is quite a bit of space there on the bottom bunk. And the top bunk is quite cozy as well. So I've never had any trouble. I've slept on the top bunk multiple times and never felt too claustrophobic or anything up there. One of the nice things about the top bunk is that that is where the air controls are, so you can control the flow of the air conditioning if you like. You kind of have that power when you're on the top bunk, which is pretty neat. With the top bunk, there are two steps to help you get up to the top bunk. You can just see one of them by the gentleman's elbow on the arm that he's resting on the bed. A little bit of blue and gray you can see in the photo there. That's one of the steps, and then right above it, there's another step to get up to that top bunk in the roomettes. So it's two steps that will help you get up there. There are also little safety straps that you can pull up if you are. I know sometimes folks do ask about, being concerned that they're going to roll out of the bunk. There are some safety straps that you can set up if you were concerned about that. I don't think it's too much of a problem. The train does move when you sleep, but I find it quite soothing, kind of like being rocked to sleep, essentially. Now, if you are concerned about getting up to the top bunk, maybe you have some mobility concerns or someone in your traveling party has some mobility concerns, one of the things that we do suggest to folks is to get two roomettes. So you can take two roomettes right across the hall from each other. You can sit together during the day, maybe on whichever roomette has the better scenery. Maybe all of a sudden the train comes around a curve and you see there's a beautiful mountain side scenery on the right-hand side of the train. You guys pop over to that right-hand roomette. And then at night you would set up just the bottom bunk in each roomette. So each person would have their own bottom bunk to sleep in. So that's certainly an option for you if you do worry about one of the two folks getting up to the top bunk. Now, if you were looking for a little bit more space on board the train, the bedroom accommodations might be the better choice for you. So the bedrooms on board the train are just about twice the size of the roomettes because of the way the train is configured. So the roomettes, as you saw in the previous photo, it's one roomette and then a hallway and then one more roomette. So they're about half the width of the train essentially, minus the hallway. The bedrooms are almost the full width of the train because the way the second half of the sleeper car works is you kind of turn a little corner and now your hallway is right alongside the edge of the train and the bedroom takes up the entire rest of the space. So the bedroom is quite a bit more spacious. It's designed for two adults, but you could certainly do two adults and one child in the bedroom if you needed to. So if you were traveling as a party of three with two adults and one child, you could fit all three of you folks in the bedroom. As you can see here, you can sit across from each other during the day, or you could sit next to each other. We'll see in the next photo, there's plenty of room next to the woman here. It's like a love seat setup, actually. Now the bedrooms will fold down into bunk beds at night, so you can just see actually over her head there, the top bunk will fold out from the wall, and then the couch she's sitting on will fold out into the bottom bunk. There is certainly a little bit more storage for luggage in the bedroom. You can see just over the gentleman's head there that there is some storage for another bag, and you can certainly store bags underneath the couch as well. Now, you folks do not have to worry about setting up your own beds. The sleeper car attendant will set up those beds for you. So, again, don't need to worry about that. The sleeper car attendant will take care of it. So, in the evening, this will convert down into bunk beds. And I do have a photo of that for you in just a moment. Now, the other great feature of the bedroom is that you do have your own private facilities. So it is a little toilet shower stall. If you've ever been in a sailboat, it's kind of similar. The idea is once you're inside and you turn on the shower, you get your whole little stall wet. But it is a private facilities just for you folks, which again is great, especially if you were concerned about social distancing. Maybe if you're going to be traveling this fall. You can take the bedroom. It's all cleaned and sanitized before you ever get on, and then you can choose to spend most of your time on board the train right there in that bedroom and really not have to interact with anyone if you don't choose to. So here's just another shot of the bedroom. This one that lets you see that couch accommodations. It's very easy to sit next to each other. And again, you can see how easy it would be to sleep or sit rather, two adults and a child. Now the chair that the gentleman was sitting in my previous photo is folded up here right on the left-hand side of the screen. So you can fold that up for a little bit more space if you don't want to sit in it right away. And you can see just over their heads there in the photo again, that's the top bunk, that blue that's edged by silver that will fold out and be the top bunk when they do go to sleep. You can see there is a pretty decent amount of room underneath the seat as well for the luggage storage. So just to give you an idea on how this is configured, just to the right-hand side of this photo, you can just barely sort of the top right-hand side see the little gray door latch. That is where their private facilities are. So it is kind of a little bit separated from their living area, which is nice. They've also got a sink and a vanity, which is across from them. So you can brush your teeth, wash your hands, dump out your leftover coffee, whatever you might like to do. You've got your own little private sink and vanity there in your bedroom as well. And here are the bedrooms for you at night in the evening. So this is them folded down into bunk bed style accommodations. Now with the bedrooms, there is a ladder to get to the top bunk. So it's a little easier to get up into the top bunk in the bedroom accommodations because you do have an actual ladder. It's just out of the frame of this photo. It's kind of right where her feet would be. But there is a ladder that you can set up to make it a little easier to get up there. In addition, you do have the safety straps if you choose to set them up. They're not very photogenic, so they don't have them in this photo, but you do have them if you'd like to set them up. And then the bottom bunk, as you can see, is a little bit wider, certainly, than it would be in a roomette. So this is where if you did have two adults and a child, most likely you would sleep one adult and the child on the bottom bunk, and then the second adult on the top bunk. I have had folks ask if you can sleep two adults in that bottom bunk. I do think it would be rather uncomfortable. It would be very cozy. You'd have to be very close and not mind being on top of each other. Um, I think it's much more reasonable if you did have to put three people in the bedroom. It really would only work if it was a smaller child. Now, if you are traveling as a family, maybe you've got two adults and two children, Amtrak does have a family bedroom available, as you can see here. During the day, it is seating for four people, and then at night, it folds down into four bunks. So two adult-sized bunks and two child-sized bunks. And those child-sized bunks are about 4'9" and 4'7", respectively. So they would have to be children in that family bedroom. If you were traveling as a party of four adults, or maybe you've got, two older kids, teenagers, something like that, what you can do is take two of the bedrooms that we saw earlier, and you can book them right next to each other, and you can have the wall taken out in between them. And that's what's called a bedroom suite. I don't have any photos because it's essentially exactly what the bedrooms look like, but connected to each other. So you'd have four seating, four bunks at night, plenty of room to seat four people during the day. It's essentially just buying the two bedrooms and then taking the wall out in between them for the bedroom suite. That would work, of course, if you did have four adults traveling, or if it was two adults and two children, you could easily do this family room that you see here. Now, Amtrak does have accessible seating as well as accessible rooms on board the train. So this is one of the accessible bedrooms on board the train. As you can see, it is still bunk bed style during the evening. So it'd be one bottom bunk and one top bunk. So it is typically designed for somebody with mobility impairment as well as their companion. Now, if you did need two bottom bunks, you could take the accessible room, and then there are roomettes just outside it, just down the hall. So you could easily, again, take the accessible room and then one of the roomettes, and then each person could have a bottom bunk. With the accessible rooms, they are a little bit larger because they are designed to accommodate the wheelchair. And the accessible rooms do have their own private toilet and washroom facilities. With the accessible rooms, the shower is just outside the room, so it's not inside your room, it's just outside your room, but it is accessible as well. It does have a little seat in it as well as it's roll in, so you can roll in with your wheelchair if you need to. Now, with all of the private rooms on board the train, the roomettes, the bedrooms, the family room, the accessible room, all of your meals on board the train are included for you. So the price of all of those meals are included. So if you are on board the train at a meal time, so let's say you're going to go from Chicago out to Glacier National Park in Montana. So you leave the Chicago area right about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you'll have dinner included that night, and then you'll have breakfast and lunch included the next day before you get into Glacier National Park in Montana. So you're on board the train during three different meal times. So you would have three meals included for you in the price of your accommodations. Now, Amtrak does have a fantastic dining car, but you can also choose to have the meals delivered to you right there in your private cabin. So again, this is a great choice, especially if you are traveling maybe this summer or this fall, and you do, are concerned about social distancing. You can actually choose from the full menu, as you can see in that left-hand photo there. Someone from the dining car will come around. They'll take your order. You can choose from the full menu, and then it will be delivered to you right there in your room at a preset time. Of course, Amtrak does have the dining car as well. If you were thinking about traveling next year, um, or you're just not too worried about it and you want to head on down to the dining car, you certainly can do that as well. So the dining car, the way it works is you'll make reservations for your seating when you get on board the train. So typically they'll have several seatings for dinner, let's say 5, 5:30, 6, 6:30, for example. So you'll make those reservations for your seating when you board the train. They'll make the announcement over the loudspeaker to ask for folks for the 6 p.m. seating to come down to the dining car. You'll head right on down to the dining car. Now, at this time, your party will be seated by yourselves. So typically with Amtrak, the way it used to work was that if you were traveling as a solo person or as a couple, you might be seated together in the dining car with another passenger or another couple, which actually was quite a lot of fun to get to meet different people and get to know new folks. But right now, of course, with social distancing, that is not taking place, so you will be seated at your own table there in the dining car. And then you can order right off the menu and have whatever you like. Now, most of the trains that we are going to look at today are the long distance trains, of course, because tonight's presentation is about overnight accommodations on board Amtrak. So all of these long distance overnight trains that we are going to look at today are called Superliner trains. And what that means is they are double decker trains. So there's rooms on the bottom and rooms on the top level. There's coach on the bottom and coach on the top level. And then when it comes to the dining car, the kitchen is on the bottom level and the actual dining car where you eat is on the top level. And what that means is they do have a full kitchen on board so they can prepare your meals to order. So you can get that beautiful steak in the middle, cooked medium if that's how you like it, and that's how it will be presented to you. So that is one of the great features about these long distance trains is they do have a full kitchen where the meals are prepared fresh to order on board for you. Now that we've seen a little bit about what it's like to travel on board the train, about that beautiful onboard experience, I'd love to show you some of the different routes that Amtrak travels across the USA, just to give you a sense of what type of sights you can see along your journey, which train routes you might want to choose for your overnight rides. And the first one I want to start with here is the Northern Rail Experience. Now, the Northern Rail Experience is one of my favorite trips here with Amtrak Vacations because it highlights three of Amtrak's most popular and most famous routes. So this one, as you can see, starts in Chicago. So you'll take Amtrak's Empire Builder train from Chicago for 2 overnights on board the train out to Seattle. You'll spend 1 overnight in Seattle and then take an overnight ride down to San Francisco on Amtrak's Coast Starlight train. You spend 2 nights in San Francisco and then take what is probably my favorite train ride in the whole world, the California Zephyr from San Francisco, 2 overnights on board back to Chicago. So it's a 9-day trip altogether, and it does have three of Amtrak's most incredible, most famous routes included. So first one that you take is the Empire Builder. So the Empire Builder leaves out from Chicago, as I mentioned, about 2:15 in the afternoon. And if you take it all the way to Seattle in one stretch, it is 2 overnights on board the train. And it is a stunning ride, folks. So it is, you go through, pardon me, the gorgeous North Dakota plains heading west. You enjoy stunning views of the Missouri River. And then you come into Montana and you go into Big Sky Country in Montana. And the train actually passes right past Glacier National Park there in Montana. So you can see the towering snow-capped mountains in the distance. It's really lovely. And then as you come into Washington State, you actually go through the Cascade Mountain Range as well, coming into Washington State before you arrive there in Seattle. Now, Seattle is a fantastic city to visit. Of course, it's known for the Space Needle, so that is typically included with this package, along with a hop on, hop off sightseeing tour, which will help you navigate all around the great sights that Seattle has to offer. Now, if you've never been on a hop on, hop off tour before, we like them quite a bit here at Amtrak Vacations because I think, in personal opinion, they are a great way to get around a city without having to try and learn its confusing subway or metro system. So the way the hop on, hop off buses work is you'll hop on the bus at the stop closest to your hotel. You'll then ride it until you get to a destination that you find interesting, like Pike's Place Market that you can see in the bottom left-hand side. You can hop off the bus in Pike's Place Market, explore, maybe get a fantastic bite to eat, and then get back on the next bus to come by. Maybe ride it up to the Space Needle, hop off, get on, travel up to the top of the Space Needle for those fantastic views, and then hop on the next bus to come by. So they're fantastic because they are narrated while you're on board the trolley or the bus. So you will learn all about the different sites there in Seattle, and they also are great transportation. Now, do keep in mind that all of our trips here with Amtrak Vacations are customizable. So let's say you are afraid of heights and you do not want to go to the top of the Space Needle. That is no problem at all. We can absolutely customize your sightseeing for you. Maybe you want to go visit Mount Rainier or Olympic National Park, which are both quite close in the Pacific Northwest there to Seattle. We do have tours to both of those places. Um, you just see Mount Rainier in the distance there, the Seattle photo at the top. So we could easily customize your sightseeing just based on your interests. Now, after your visit to Seattle, you will board Amtrak's Coast Starlight train from Seattle on down to San Francisco. The scenery, folks, along the Coast Starlight route is truly breathtaking. You go past beautiful coastal scenery. Now, when you first leave Seattle, actually, you're going through the Cascade Mountain Range again. So you're going to see these tall snow-capped peaks like Mount Hood, Mount Rainier from the train. You go over several different rivers. You're kind of along the coastline there as well. And then as you come down into Northern California, you know, you really see some of that beautiful coastal scenery and actually some of wine country as well, which is quite neat on your way into San Francisco. Now we have you get off the train and stretch your legs in San Francisco for 2 nights just to get some fresh air. We have an incredible tour included there for you out to Muir Woods. So the Muir Woods are that bottom left-hand photo. It's the towering redwood trees reaching all the way up into the sky. Big, huge trees. You can't wrap your arms around the trunks. They're enormous. And then from the Muir Woods, we actually have you visit Sausalito and then take a bay cruise back to San Francisco. So it's really neat. And I always say that if you traveled all the way to the Pacific Ocean, you really need to get out on the water and experience it. So we have you take that beautiful bay cruise. You get some incredible photos of the Golden Gate Bridge on that bay cruise back into San Francisco. After 2 nights in amazing San Francisco, I highly recommend, by the way, their Little Italy if you like Italian food. Incredible food. All these great little cafes set up right on the sidewalk. You can sit outside and kind of people watch and have some beautiful pasta there in San Francisco. Of course, Fisherman's Wharf right down on the waterfront. They've got incredible chowder and seafood down there as well. After you have your fill of San Francisco, you'll hop onto Amtrak's beautiful California Zephyr train ride. And the California Zephyr, as I mentioned, is one of my favorite trains pretty much in the entire world, not just here in the US. I do think it is one of the most scenic train rides that I've ever been on, and I've traveled quite a bit here with Amtrak Vacations. The California Zephyr is so special because it has such stunning, beautiful scenery that changes all throughout the route. And so much of the scenery, folks, you just cannot see by car. So the train goes to places into the mountains that you can never travel by car. There are no roads. You would never see them by airplane because you're up way too high and the clouds would cover everything. So one of the amazing reasons to take the train is to see that incredible landscape of America. And the California Zephyr, I think, is the best scenery here. A lot of folks will argue with me. The Coast Starlight, of course, is incredible. The Empire Builder, too, going through the Northern Rockies is lovely. But for me, it's the California Zephyr because when you leave San Francisco, you're going into the Sierra Nevada mountains. So you've got these huge, tall pine trees just towering over you. You come then out of San Francisco or out of California rather into Nevada, and it really changes. The landscape changes to this really beautiful kind of sparse desert-like scenery. And then as you come into Utah, you start following the Colorado River for hundreds of miles. And you've got these towering red sandstone cliffs off to the side of the train. You can see it in the photo there. This is taken from inside the dining car, just so you know. Um, you can see the beautiful sandstone cliffs. You can just see the Colorado River peeking out in between the trees there. This is beautiful to follow. You literally follow it for a couple hundred miles. You'll see actually kayakers and people in the river. They'll wave to the train as it goes by. And then you come into Colorado and you climb into the Rocky Mountains. And you're just, these huge granite mountains, snow-capped peaks going all the way through these winding curves and bends in the Rocky Mountains. The train actually has to slow down a little bit because, there's so many curves and everything. It can't go too fast, but that's great because you can get some really incredible photos. And then as you come out of Colorado, you go through the Great Plains and your last stretch to Chicago. And I always think this part of the trip is really overrated, but it's really lovely. You've got beautiful kind of rolling wheat fields which turn golden at the sunset. Loads of wildflowers, especially if you're traveling in the spring or summer. You can kind of see them in that second photo there. The wildflowers just spread out over the fields. It's really beautiful rides the whole way along for the 2 nights on board the California Zephyr. So I could wax poetic about it for the next 40 minutes, but I will move along just to recap here for you. So the Northern Rail experience, that's 5 overnights on board the train altogether, 3 nights in hotel accommodations. You've got the great sightseeing tours in San Francisco as well as Seattle. And you've got all of those beautiful train rides on those 3 most famous Amtrak routes. Now, before I go on to the next trip here, I just want to highlight, I know it is a little bit of a strange time to be thinking about booking a trip because you're not sure what's going to be happening with different travel restrictions and things like that. But here with Amtrak Vacations, we are trying to make it as easy as possible for you. So we have what we call the maximum flexibility offer. So that maximum flexibility offer means that if you book a trip by the 30th of September, it does not matter when you travel. It could be this year, it could be next year, could even be in 2022. So with Amtrak Vacations, we are booking now all the way through the summer of 2022. So if you have a special anniversary or birthday coming up in a couple of years, it's never too early to start planning. It does not matter when you travel as long as you book by the 30th of September. That means that you have maximum flexibility to change or cancel your trip right up until 5 days prior to your scheduled departure. So, right up until 5 days before you leave, you can change your dates, you can change your destinations, you can change your itinerary, or if you needed to, you could cancel the trip. And again, that's right up until 5 days prior to the departure, and there would be no change fees and no cancellation penalties. So just to keep that in mind, if you were thinking about booking a trip, you'll see we've got some great specials in just a few minutes. Honestly, I've think this is one of the best times to book, just because there's great deals to be had here traveling with Amtrak Vacations, and you do have that incredible flexibility that you can make any changes that you need to right up until 5 days before you leave. So one of my other favorite trips here, in addition to the Northern Rail experience, is this Rails to the Grand Canyon package. I really think the Rails to the Grand Canyon is such a great trip because it's a great trip if you want to get your feet wet with overnight train travel. Maybe you're not ready to commit to 5 overnights on board the train all at once. This one is fantastic because it's just 2 overnights on board the train from Los Angeles out to Arizona, and then Arizona back to Los Angeles, and it's really quite easy to do. So Los Angeles is one of those stations that does have the special first class lounge. So if you are going to upgrade to those roomettes or bedrooms, you do have access to the first class lounge there in Los Angeles. So you can kick back and relax before heading down to board the train. Again, remember you do have that priority boarding if you do take the sleeper accommodations. So your train will leave Los Angeles in the early evening. You can get settled into your roomette or your bedroom, have a beautiful meal, maybe head down to the sightseeing car and grab a glass of wine, have a little toast as you kick off your journey. You'll go to bed and then you will wake up in Arizona ready to do your Grand Canyon adventure. So, this train, the Southwest Chief, is a lovely ride. Um, Out into the beautiful Arizona desert. So you do arrive in Flagstaff the following morning. Now, we will pick you up right there at the train station in Flagstaff and bring you over to the Grand Canyon Railway Depot. So, this is one of my favorite trips because A, the Grand Canyon is an incredible place to visit, and B, you actually get a bonus train ride. So, the Amtrak doesn't quite go all the way to the rim of the Grand Canyon. So, we will have you take this beautiful Grand Canyon Railway train right up into the national park. So this train will leave. It's about a 2 hour and 15-minute ride into Grand Canyon National Park itself. It's a lot of fun. There's like a little Wild West show before the train leaves, and then the cowboys get on board the train and they play the ukulele and music and things like that to entertain you along your ride. And then you have arrived at Grand Canyon National Park, which is an absolutely incredible and spectacular place to visit. If you've never been, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's literally breathtaking. Um, the first time I saw the Grand Canyon, I genuinely thought that I was looking at a painted Hollywood backdrop. It almost doesn't look real because it's so immense and so enormous, and it just stretches on and on and on as far as the eye can see. It's 277, I think, miles long. Um, it's up to a mile deep at its deepest point. It's just breathtaking. And we have you stay right inside the national park. So we have you stay at one of the historic lodges right inside Grand Canyon National Park. So you are positioned right there at the rim of the park, rim of the canyon, rather. So if you want to get up and see the sunset, I highly recommend that you do. You literally can roll out of bed, walk 5 minutes to the rim, view the breathtaking sunset, and then roll back down to your hotel and grab a cup of coffee, which I confess was my experience. But it's so great because you're right inside the park that you can do that. You don't have to get up extra early and try and drive in and find parking and get to the rim and oh my gosh, now we've missed the sunset. You are right there. So it's really incredible. So this Rails to the Grand Canyon trip, it's 4 nights altogether, 2 nights on board the train and 2 nights stay up in the Grand Canyon. And as you'll see in just a moment, of course, this is all customizable. Now this trip starts at $6.99 per person. That is the price with the coach seating on board Amtrak, which, as we saw, was quite comfy, right? But I always highly recommend that you folks do look into the roomettes and the bedrooms. And the reason that we don't give you the starting from price in a roomette or a bedroom is just because the prices on those roomettes and bedrooms changes all the time. It's because there's not too many of them on board each trip, so the price will change depending on when you book, where you're going, when you're going, how many other folks have already booked those roomettes and bedrooms, all those kind of factors. But I do like to give you an example of the price because I always think that if I don't tell you the price, you assume it's expensive, which is really not the case. So for this Rails to the Grand Canyon package, I looked towards the end of October just to give you an idea. So that's the last week in October this year, 2020. If you did upgrade to the roomette, it would only be 75 per person. So 75 per person, that's including both nights on board the train. So that's 2 nights on board the train. That's 2 meals on board the train, dinner going out and a breakfast coming back. And if you upgraded to the bedroom accommodations, again, that's the bigger room. It's almost twice the size. It's got the private facilities, your own little private restroom and shower. That's only $215 per person. And again, that's for both nights on board the train. So you can see they really can be quite affordable, especially when you consider the great special offer that I have available for you in just a few minutes here. So do keep that in mind. Always you want to at least inquire about those roomettes and bedrooms because oftentimes I think you'll find they're much more affordable than you might have expected they would be. Now, again, do keep in mind that all of these trips here are customizable. So you'll see we're talking about trips leaving from Chicago, leaving from Los Angeles, things like that. But just because you don't live in a major city does not mean that these trips will not work for you. It's very easy for us to connect you through from your hometown station. And in addition, kind of like I mentioned before, all of the itineraries are customizable as well. So with this Rails to the Grand Canyon trip that we just looked at, for example, if you want to add extra nights at the Grand Canyon, that's no problem. If you want to upgrade to the famous El Tovar Lodge and be right literally on the rim of the Grand Canyon, we can certainly do that. The trip, as you saw, started and ended in Los Angeles, but maybe if you've never been there before, you want to add some time in Los Angeles, we can very easily do that for you. We can add some hotel accommodations and some sightseeing there in Los Angeles as well. We also have a wide variety of hotels for you. So you can choose from 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star options. Most of the time, they are located very close to the train station or very close to the sightseeing. A lot of the times it's both. So, for example, in Seattle, which we just looked at, you can stay right near the train station, which is quite close to the Space Needle, or you can stay down by the waterfront. A lot of folks like to stay down by the waterfront and Pike's Place Market. So, we have hotels in both neighborhoods for you, just depending on where you would like to stay. So our next trip here is the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone rail journey round trip from Chicago. This one is fantastic because you get to see 2 incredible national parks and you're taking that stunning California Zephyr train ride. So it's one overnight from Chicago out to Salt Lake City. You stop there for a night before heading up to Yellowstone and Grand Teton. You come back to Salt Lake City for one more night and then head back on to Chicago on the beautiful California Zephyr train ride. So this part of the California Zephyr, you will see the incredible Colorado Rockies, as well as following the Colorado River into Utah with those big, beautiful red rock sandstone formations along the sides of the train there. Salt Lake City, of course, is a beautiful place. It's the gateway to Yellowstone and Grand Teton. So we do have you spend a night there coming and heading back as well. But the real highlights of this trip definitely are those 2 amazing national parks. So Grand Teton National Park is the first park that you'll visit. We do include a half-day sightseeing tour of Grand Teton, which does focus on the wildlife in the area. So lots of great wildlife for you to take in Grand Teton as well as in Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park, of course, famous for its geothermal features. I'm sure you've all heard of Old Faithful Geyser. What you may not know is that there are over 300 geysers in Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park is the oldest national park here in the US, as well as the largest national park. So, this Grand Tetons and Yellowstone rail journey does include a car rental for you. And the reason for that is that way you can take your time really seeing the sights of Grand Teton and of Yellowstone because it's so enormous. We want to give you the transportation to get around. But if you do not prefer a car rental, we have lots of different Yellowstone trips where you do not need a car rental. We include the transfer and the sightseeing. So it really is just down to your preference. This one does include the car rental, so you can kind of do that on your own exploration. So it is a 5-day car rental that's included here for you, and you really get to explore the incredible sights of Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Park, and you see the stunning California Zephyr train route in your 2 nights on board Amtrak. Now, just want to highlight a few of our incredible limited time special offers that we have going on right now. So we've got great special offers on our Rocky Mountain National Park. You can see that from Denver, New Orleans, which we'll see in just a minute. Yellowstone that we just saw, and the Grand Canyon, both on sale, as well as Yosemite and Glacier National Park. You can see all of these on our website at amtrakvacations.com/special offers, or call us or your local travel agent. They can get you any of these great special offers and help you put together any Amtrak Vacations trip as well. Now, if you don't quite have as long as some of these last journeys, you don't quite have 9 days or etc. You want to just do maybe a long weekend trip. The New Orleans Ultimate Getaway round trip from Chicago might be a great choice for you. New Orleans, of course, is an incredible city to visit. It's so fun and so vibrant. And the City of New Orleans train ride from Chicago right on down to New Orleans is really a very pretty ride as well. The City of New Orleans train will leave Chicago in the evening. Fun fact that you may not know, you can actually board the train up to an hour early. It typically leaves around 8 p.m., but you can get on board around 7. That way you have time to have dinner before the train kicks off. You'll then travel throughout the next day and arrive in New Orleans a little bit later afternoon, early evening, right around 3:45, 4 o'clock, you arrive in New Orleans. So it's another great one because it's not an extensive overnight ride. It's just a little bit of a shorter trip there. And then you're in New Orleans, so you can really take advantage of all the time you have in the city because it's an unbelievable place to visit. So much culture, so much heritage, incredible jazz music pretty much in every corner, and the food is unbelievable. So I highly recommend, uh, you know, eating as much as possible when you get to New Orleans, trying out all those local cuisines. They've got great Cajun food and Creole food. And this ultimate getaway does include a dinner for you at a popular local restaurant. It's actually the second oldest restaurant in New Orleans. It's right there in the heart of the French Quarter. So they've got some great local cuisine. You also have a choice of tours, so you can choose the Swamp and Bayou tour if you want to see the alligators. You can also choose the Jazz Cruise, which is a paddle wheel steamboat that goes out on the Mississippi River with a live jazz band. So that's fantastic as well. We also give you the Attractions Pass, which gets you admission to Mardi Gras World, some of those great museums right there in the center of the French Quarter. Also included with that pass is a Creole cooking demonstration. So if you wanted to try your hand at making some of those great jambalaya type dishes, you can certainly do that. And it's a 3-night stay plus the 2 nights on board the City of New Orleans train. And again, this is all customizable. So if you want to customize that sightseeing, if you want to add extra nights in New Orleans, if you want to come from New York or Washington or San Antonio or anywhere like that instead of Chicago, of course we can do that for you. That's no trouble. And of course, I do like to finish out with the Amtrak trip for overnight train travel train buffs. This one here, the Grand Rail Experience, is a 14-day itinerary, and you ride on 5 of Amtrak's different train routes. As you can see in the map here, you go all the way across country, come all the way down the coast, and then go all the way back across country. So it's really spectacular. Um, train voyage, if you will, because you see incredible scenery all along the different routes. So you start in Chicago on the Empire Builder that we saw earlier, which goes through the northern Rocky Mountains, passing through Glacier National Park on your way to Seattle. Again, we'll have you get off in Seattle. You can do a tour, maybe if you like, to Mount Rainier, as you can see in the distance there. We do include the hop on, hop off sightseeing tour, as well as the admission to the Space Needle and the Glass Garden exhibit, which is right at the base of the Space Needle. That's the bottom left-hand photo there. You then take Amtrak's full Coast Starlight ride from Seattle all the way down to Los Angeles. So again, you go through that beautiful Cascade Mountain range, and then you hug the California coastline for the next several hours on your way into Los Angeles. You can actually see surfers and seals from the train. Um, it's really quite an exciting experience there on the Coast Starlight. You get off the train for the night in Los Angeles before boarding Amtrak's beautiful Sunset Limited ride. So you take the northernmost train on the Empire Builder, and then the southernmost train route on the Sunset Limited. This one goes from Los Angeles through through southern Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, all the way to New Orleans, where you get off the train for a couple nights because you need at least 2 nights to experience this fabulous city. It's so vibrant, and there's so much to see and do there in New Orleans. Again, you can certainly customize and add extra nights there if you like. And then you'll take Amtrak's Crescent train from New Orleans up to Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful ride through the east coast of the U.S. You spend a couple nights in Washington, D.C., which is our nation's capital. We include a beautiful tour there for you called the Monuments by Moonlight Tour. Now, the Monuments by Moonlight Tour is designed to see the Capitol building, the Lincoln Memorial, all of these beautiful monuments lit up at night. And then you take Amtrak's Capital Limited train from Washington to Chicago. So this is your final Amtrak ride on this 14-day journey. It's one overnight on board the train, and it's really very pretty. It goes through lots of charming little small towns. It's really lovely in the fall, actually, if you're looking for foliage. Beautiful foliage, sort of these rolling hillsides and quaint little towns on the Capital Limited back to Chicago. Now, again, these are all customizable. Let's say you live in the Seattle area. You can start this journey in Seattle, go all the way around, and end in Seattle instead. Same thing if you live near LA, you can go from LA all the way around and come on back to LA. So they are certainly all customizable. But this one is really incredible because it's 7 nights on board the train, and you get to see 5 different Amtrak train routes. So I like to finish off with this one when we do our overnight train travel presentations, because I just think it's a really fun way to really experience what life is like on board Amtrak for sure. Now, Amtrak does have some great discounts for you folks if you are ages 2 to 12, or someone in your party is, I would expect. If you are 65 or older, or if you are active duty military or veterans, there are some great discounts on the train portions of your vacations. And as I promised, we do have a very special discount for you folks just for joining me today on our presentation. So this is saving $100 per booking if you do upgrade to any sleeping accommodation, roomette, bedroom, family room, accessible room, whatever it might be. You can save $100 off of your trip. This is combinable with those limited time offers. So let's say you were looking at going out to the Grand Canyon, you can combine this $100 savings with the Grand Canyon special offer. And you do just need to reference the promo code of upgrade 100. Again, that's upgrade 100. Just call us or your local travel agent and give us that promo code. Don't forget, of course, to check us out at amtrakvacations.com. I only had time to show you 5 different itineraries today, but we've got literally hundreds all across the US and up into Canada. Or call us or your local travel agent. They can, again, set any of these great Amtrak vacations up here for you. If you had fun today, we've got a couple other webinars coming up here. Next week is focusing on coast-to-coast train travel. And August 25th and 26th are the top 7 destinations you can travel to this year. So that's really highlighting some great fall foliage destinations, and also some great winter trips for you if you were looking to go this year. Now I can see we've got loads of questions. Again, if I don't have time to answer yours live, do not worry. I will make sure we send you an email with the answers to all of your questions. But again, please feel free to type any more away in these last few minutes. And before I answer your questions, I do just have a question for you. So we always want to keep these presentations fun and interesting for you. And we really try and tailor them based on your feedback. So just wondering, what destinations are you interested in? And when are you interested in travel? All right, perfect. So I've got loads of questions and just a little bit of time, and I'm going to answer as many as we have time for. And again, I promise I will get you those answers if we don't have time. So question here from Shauna, is there complimentary Wi-Fi available? So fantastic question, Shauna. Now it really depends on which train route you're looking at. So the Coast Starlight train does have Wi-Fi. The California Zephyr has Wi-Fi sometimes. So they have a Wi-Fi password. It works in a lot of places, but then when you get up to the tops of the Rocky Mountains and stuff, you really don't have very good service. So I would say when you're traveling on board Amtrak, I would never expect to have Wi-Fi just because you do go through a lot of remote, beautiful scenic areas. So I'd recommend, downloading some movies or TV shows on your tablet or your laptop ahead of time. Download those books on your e-reader or bring paper books with you. Um, and then where the Wi-Fi is available, certainly they do give you the password and you can use it. It is complimentary. So, but just never sort of count on always having it, just because of the different areas that you travel through. Great question here. Let's see. Sorry, folks, just so many questions. I'm just trying to find some that, have been asked once or twice just to make sure that I get the information here for you. So great question here from Henry. Does the room price include 2 occupants or is it per person? So great question, Henry. So when I gave you the prices for the roomettes and bedrooms, 75 per person and etc. for the roomette, I did price it based on 2 people sharing the room. But absolutely, if you travel solo, you would book the room. It would be, pretty much just the double of that. It'd be 150 for the upgrade to the room. And it would be your own private room. So nobody else would come in that room. You'd book the whole room just for yourself if you were traveling as a solo traveler. And again, that pricing does all just depend on where you're going and when you're going and all those sorts of things. So great question here from Roberta. How about special meals such as vegan and kosher? Great question, Roberta. So Amtrak does always have vegetarian meals and they always have kosher meals available. For vegan meals, they don't necessarily always have a special menu item that's selected, but because they do prepare the meals fresh on board the trains most of the time in most cases, you would just want to speak to your server, let them know that you're a vegan, and they would, let you know what meals would work for you. So great question. We've just got time for one more. Great question here from George. George, oh, and Dottie actually asked the same thing. Would like to know how many roomettes are in each car. Great question, especially because you are only sharing those facilities with the folks that have the roomettes in your train car. There are typically 10 roomettes upstairs and 4 roomettes downstairs on those double-decker trains. So there's 14 total. Now, do keep in mind they may not all be occupied, on your journey, but there are multiple restrooms as well. So it's not just one bathroom shared among 14 cars. There's, I think, 4 restrooms as well. So it's not, again, just the single restroom. So it's not too many roomettes, and there are multiple facilities as well. So I do want to thank everybody for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend your morning with me looking at some fantastic overnight train journeys. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again so much.